Hello and good afternoon. My name is Keith Mills with Premier World Discovery, and I'm here to take you through our Canadian Rockies Via Rail trip for about the next 30 minutes. This trip will leave on July 16th and 22, and we're partnering with Burlington Trailways, who we've worked with for many years. We've offered this trip in the past with tremendous success. So it's a tremendous tour, and please sit back. I'll give you some of the highlights and insights to the tour, and hopefully you'll join us next summer on this spectacular trip. Couple things about our company as we get started in our partnership with Burlington. Premier World Discovery is based out in Redondo Beach, California. I've been representing the company for the past 21 years. I live here in the Chicago area, and we offer tours throughout the world. We've got about 80 itineraries on most of the major continents. We do a lot of trips in North America. And we're also members of USTOA and a number of travel organizations. USTA offers our passengers and our partners $1 million consumer protection plan. And this is very important nowadays in the post-pandemic travel world. Round-trip airfare is included, deluxe motor coach transportation as well. And we include breakfast each day. And then there'll be a full-time tour director with you on this trip. They'll be meeting you in Vancouver at the airport. We hire only Canadian guides for our trips up in Canada, and they'll be with you throughout the trip on the train and all the way to the Calgary airport. We will take good care of your suitcases throughout the trip, and it's just a reminder that everything is taken care of on a tour, from meals to transportation and luggage. People often ask about round-trip air. Our schedule will be out sometime in the spring of exactly what air we're going on. In all likelihood, we'll be flying on United through Chicago. Air is included out of Moline. Transportation by Burlington is included up to Moline and back again. And then we will fly home from Calgary, again, in all likelihood through Chicago. This trip is really a two-part trip, and we're going to go out to British Columbia for the first couple days, and then we're going to do our train trip, overnighting on the Via Rail trip. And then we go a night in Jasper, and then 3 nights in Banff in the Alberta. Weather this time of year is, as being from the Midwest, we know it gets kind of hot in the summer. This is an instant air conditioning trip. Temperatures in the 70s during the day, typically in the 50s in the evening. So very pleasant weather to travel. We've got actually 11 meals included, 7 breakfasts, 4 dinners. And then we will have first-class accommodations throughout the trip. We're staying at the Vancouver Sheraton's, our primary hotel. Then a night on Via Rail and sleeper berths, Sawridge and Jasper for a night, and then 3 nights winding up the trip at the Caribou at the Ptarmigan Inn in beautiful Banff in the Rockies. So this is a beautiful city of Vancouver. If you've not been before, it's probably one of the most beautiful cities in the world. It's a beautiful harbor city. They consider this one of the top 5 cities in the world for livability. The actual city itself, about 600,000 population. There's over 2.5 million in the Vancouver metro area. So we're going to overnight there. We'll have a welcome dinner that first night. You'll have some time, depending on when we arrive, to walk around. Our hotel is right downtown Vancouver. This is the Holiday Inn Center. And then we also use the Sheraton. So again, nice accommodations. You'll have breakfast included each morning on the tour, typically at your leisure prior to going out sightseeing, so you don't have the breakfasts all together with the group. So following our welcome dinner that night, we're going to get up the next morning and board one of the BC ferries. It's about a 2-hour ride going over to Vancouver Island and the capital city of Victoria, the capital of British Columbia. The ferry, very scenic. It's about a 2.5 hour ride, going through some of the islands and crossing into Victoria, and we'll be disembarking just north of the city of Victoria. It's interesting that Victoria is equidistant from Seattle and Vancouver. You can see we're right along the border there, and then you've got Vancouver Island there that we'll be on. So the highlight here is going over to Butchart Gardens. We'll do this first thing upon arrival. One of the most visited gardens in the world. We have about 1 million visitors each year visit Butchart Gardens. And the pictures, I think, here will kind of speak for themselves. You are at your leisure to walk around. Gardens were created back in the early 1900s. This originally was a limestone quarry, and Robert Butcher was a cement maker from Ontario who moved out to British Columbia. And when the limestone was exhausted, his wife, Jenny Butcher, created a sunken garden here in the early 1920s. And it's remained in the family ever since. They gave the gardens to their grandson in 1939, Ian Ross, for his 21st birthday. And in 1953, they also added miles of underground lighting, so they light it up in the evening as well. The current owner of the property is Robin Lee Clark, and she is the great granddaughter of the Butcharts. So when we're here, there's all kinds of unique statues, but when we're here, you'll be able to walk around at your leisure. We spend about 3 hours here. There's a coffee shop and tea shop that you can walk into as well. But I think taking in some of the beautiful, beautiful scenery, and then walking through the gardens. This is a sunken garden. This was the original one that Jenny created. This is the Italian garden. And then we'll get back on the motor coach for about a 20-minute ride into the capital city of Victoria. It's a shot of the Parliament building in the Inner Harbor. Again, another beautiful city, Victoria. It's a population of about 85,000 and about 360,000 in their metro area. It's on the southernmost tip of Canada, and again, not far from Seattle. It's known as the Garden City. It's about 60 miles from Seattle. This is the famous Empress Hotel. This opened in 1908. The design is Chateauesque style architecture. And if you get a chance during your free time, I would go over to the Empress and just walk around. It's one of the many Canadian Pacific hotels that were built to entice people to stay here when the Canadian Pacific Railway was built crossing Canada. This is going into the lobby of the Empress. They have what they call high tea every day, which is a big event there. And they do have a dress code, no sandals and shorts and things like that for high tea at the Empress. This is the Parliament building. This was completed in 1897, neo-Baroque architecture here. So we'll do a little tour of Victoria by motor coach, and then you'll have some time in the afternoon to wander and browse around the shops and see some of the buildings and things here. This is going into the Parliament building. And then later that afternoon, we will reboard our ferry. The motor coach goes on with us, and then you'll have a chance to relax on board as we head back to Vancouver. Following morning, we will have a tour of the beautiful city of Vancouver. And again, primarily by motor coach. People often ask, is this a hard walking tour? Overall, this is a pretty easy tour. You'll be getting on off the motor coach a number of places, but not lots of long walks like you sometimes have in Europe and some tours overseas. So this is just part of our tour of Vancouver. This is Stanley Park. This is kind of like the Central Park of Vancouver. It's about 1,000 acres, sits out on a peninsula. It's very, very pretty. Was first opened in 1911. Some of the Native American totem poles. This is Lionsgate Bridge, view from Stanley Park. This is Stanley Park Lagoon. And again, we'll be driving through some of the city areas. They have a large Chinatown here as well. Many of the Chinese railroad workers who emigrated from China to work on the rail back in the 1890s, 1880s remained here. So very vibrant Chinatown. Then we finish up that morning tour in Gastown. Gastown's kind of a unique area. This is where the town basically was founded. It was a saloon keeper. His name was Jack Dayton, and his nickname was Gassy Jack because he talked a lot. And Gassy Jack was considered kind of the founder of Vancouver. The sailors who were coming in on the ships would hang around his saloon, and the city kind of built up around Gastown. Originally was a sawmill back in 1867. They had a big fire in Vancouver also. Much of the city was destroyed in 1886. 1887, the railroad arrived and more people came to Vancouver. And this is a great area for browsing and shopping. There's a steam-powered clock here. Some of the buildings that were built in the 1890s still remain. You'll have a chance for lunch, and then we will head over after lunch around 1:30, 2 o'clock for our Via Rail trip. The train leaves at 3 p.m. on our third day there. I'm sorry, our second day and third day. And we're going to be on the train for about 19 hours. Kind of take you through what's involved here. You'll have car seating in the cars, and the seats in the evening then fold down for bunk style sleeping. And we'll be heading from British Columbia, heading up into the Canadian Rockies. So it'll be daytime when you leave. There'll be dinner included on the train that evening. There's a lounge car as well you can go to. This is typical of the seating that you'll have with your traveling partner. And you can sit back and relax and enjoy the train trip. Like I said, there's a dome car you can go up and visit. There's a snack car there as well. Then while you're at dinner that evening, the train attendants will come and they will fold down your upper berth, and then they will fold out a lower berth for sleeping that evening. The next morning we wake up and we'll be in Alberta, heading up to Jasper, taking the beautiful Canadian Rocky scenery. This is the dining car. As I mentioned, we'll have dinner, and then breakfast that second morning is included as well. This is actually in the coach seating. So train travel kind of takes you back to yesteryear. I think people like to do the train, just a little different mode of transportation. It's a lot of fun. So this is coming up into Alberta, the North Thompson River. Then we come into the spectacular Canadian Rockies. If you've not been to the Canadian Rockies, I think it's one of the prettiest mountain ranges in the world. I've been able to travel a lot. I've been in the travel industry now 32 years, and one of my favorite destinations is the Rockies. It's also been a very good seller for travel companies for many, many years. And Mount Robson here typifies the grandeur of the Rockies and the landscape. So we'll be going into Jasper for our overnight. Across the Continental Divide. This is again up in Jasper. The train that we're on, the Via Rail, crosses all the way from British Columbia to Montreal and then back again. Some people have asked about doing that train across the country. It's a long, long trip. I think it's 3 nights on the train. So we'll disembark our Via Rail in the little town of Jasper. Our home for the next night is the Sawridge Hotel. We used this hotel for many years, and right in town, right in downtown Jasper, you can walk around town and browse the shops and things like that. And so we're going to do a little touring. We're going to go into Jasper National Park. This was founded in 1813. The town of Jasper was a popular fur trading post back in the early 1800s. The population there is about 4,600. Elevation in Jasper is about 1,000 feet above sea level. I think the pictures of the Canadian Rockies kind of speak for themselves. This is one of the most beautiful, pristine areas in the world. Lots of rugged mountainscapes, lots of waterfalls, Moline Canyon and Moline Falls. And you should see a lot of wildlife in the Canadian Rockies. Even during the summer, you'll see a lot of the mountain sheep and the elk down along the roadside. Every time I've been up the Rockies 4 times, and I've seen bear each time. We've got some of the mountain goats. This is back in town. You'll see elk coming through town in Jasper. Is quite a normal scene. Sometimes they come in small herds. This is a mountain goat. Usually you may see a bear, maybe not quite this close, but they typically come down to the road when we're driving along the Ice Fields Parkway on the next day. So during our tour, we're going to go out to Moline Lake, beautiful emerald colored lake sitting amongst the mountains. That island there is called Spirit Island and said to be one of the most photographed spots in all of Canada. So we'll spend a little time at Moline Lake before we head back into town. So on the fourth day, we're going to drive from Jasper to Banff. Again, a beautiful, beautiful drive. It's about, I think, 150 miles on the Icefields Parkway. You can see it cuts right through the mountains. Even in July, we should still see some snow-capped peaks here. And it's a 2-lane highway most of the way. There's some passing lanes, and you'll see cars pulled over on the side of the road quite often, and they've spotted some type of wildlife. And the motor coach typically will pull over. We don't always get off, but you'll get to see some animals, hopefully, during our Icefields Parkway drive. These are just some shots from the Icefield Parkway. Bighorn sheep, you see these quite often along the side of the road near the lakes typically. I took this picture out of the side of the bus. We did get off probably too close to the sheep. Moose and elk are abundant in the Canadian Rockies. I was up there a couple of years ago. We saw a moose running through the parking lot of the hotel. They're fairly dangerous, so the staff were out there telling people to get away as people were getting too close. Mount Athabasca is kind of the iconic landmark of Jasper Park and the Athabasca Falls. So around lunchtime, we will reach the Athabasca Glacier and the Columbia Ice Fields. The Columbia Ice Fields are the largest ice fields in North America. They've been receding since the 1840s. Well, actually, they have signs here. I think I have a picture later that where they have it receding a little bit each year. So we're going to get on a snow coach, and that's going to take you up onto the ice fields of the Athabasca Glacier. Usually after lunch, we go up there. You'll get off the motor coach and you'll be able to walk around on the glacier. It's about 900 feet thick at most points. You'll often see people with little bottles scooping up pure glacier water. Let's see, I think I got a picture. People will drink some of that glacier water while they're on the trip. From here, from the Athabasca Glacier that afternoon, we drive down on the end of our drive down into Banff, and this is one of the many lakes that we stop out. This is Peyto Lake. It does take on this turquoise blue color. A lot of the lakes up here in the Rockies have this beautiful emerald green or turquoise color to them, and it's because of the silt that runs off from the mountains. It creates like a powder in the water, and then the sun reflects off of this powder. Peyto Lake is said to resemble the shape of a fox, if you can see that in the picture. There's a better shot of the fox. So again, lots of beautiful lakes, and we'll see a lot of these during our next couple of days. There's the head of the fox. That may be you at this point of the trip. We've been out traveling all day, and we head into the beautiful town of Banff. This is a little ski resort town. They have skiing here from September through almost end of May. They've got a long snow season. This is the town of Banff below, looking from Sulphur Mountain. So it's a small town, resort town, about a population, again, about 5,000 people, sits right amongst the Canadian Rockies. One of our two hotels that we use, the Banff Caribou Lodge and its sister hotel, the Ptarmigan. Again, ski lodge type resort accommodations, but right in the middle of town. So you can walk out the door and do your shopping, go for lunch and things like that right from the hotel. Ptarmigan Inn is just down the street from the Banff Hotel. Again, very nice accommodations. I stayed at both these hotels on my different trips up the Canadian Rockies. There are swimming pools at the hotels. So that one has an indoor pool. Again, outside temperatures are in the 70s, but they have indoor swimming, I think, at the Sawridge up in Jasper as well. So on our tour on day 6, we're going to take in some of the beautiful scenery in and around Banff. This is Moraine Lake in the Valley of the 10 Peaks. Again, one of the most photographed spots in all of Canada. Moraine Lake takes on this beautiful emerald green color each summer. And there's 10 peaks in there. I never got them all in my picture, but there are 10 peaks. Again, beautiful, beautiful area. This is an aerial view of Banff. Mount Rundle is the iconic mountain, sits outside of town. We'll see that on our tour as well. This is Bow Falls, not far from the Banff Springs Hotel and the Bow River. Tunnel Mountain. These are hoodoo rock formations created by time, by the wind. And the sandstone rock formations here created over thousands of years. You'll see these throughout the northern Rockies, called hoodoos. This is the Banff Springs Hotel. This is another Canadian Pacific property that's just outside of town. Again, it was built by the Canadian Pacific Railway in the 1890s. And if you get a chance, if you're not afraid of heights, there is a nice ski lift or tram going up to the top of Sulphur Mountain for some spectacular views. There's a little coffee house up there as well. So I would recommend doing that. It's just, again, outside of town where you get on the tram. Another shot of the Moraine Lake and the Valley of the 10 Peaks. And on our second day, or I'm sorry, finishing up on day 6, we're a sightseeing tour. We're going to go out to Chateau Lake Louise. This will be after lunch, and you'll have a chance to see this beautiful hotel and the beautiful Lake Louise that sits in the foreground here. It's another Canadian Pacific property. Lake Louise was named after Queen Victoria's daughter when she visited this area. She thought it was one of the most beautiful places in the world and named the lake after her daughter Louise. The glacier that feeds the lake is called the Victoria Glacier. We'll have a chance to walk around the lake. You can walk into the hotel, see the spectacular hotel and the scenery that surrounds it. We're going to go see Kicking Horse Pass. This is, again, another map of the area that we were visiting. Kicking Horse Route is what they call. We're going to see a little part of this while we're motor coaching. There's one of the tunnels that they come out of. The train comes out of. Yoho National Park, another national park that we're going to visit. Again, spectacular scenery here. Crossing the natural bridge in Yoho. The spiral tunnels that were built to traverse the mountains by train. We'll stop there and see some of the tunnels, and then we will come into the city of Calgary for our flight home. There'll be a farewell dinner that last night, and we will fly out of Calgary back through, in all likelihood, Chicago, Minneapolis, back to Moline for a transportation back to Burlington. Passports are required to visit Canada. I know there's a lot of COVID questions come up nowadays. Mask will be required, I believe, flying for quite a while. I'm not sure for next year on motor coach trips if masks will be required or not. We will have a pre-trip meeting where I'll come out probably about 2 to 3 weeks before the trip leaves. I'm also planning on visiting Burlington this spring for an in-person presentation, should it be allowed. You will need Canadian dollars while you're up there. The exchange rate is very good for Americans right now, but if you spend American dollars in a store, they're going to give you Canadian change back. Not always the best exchange as well. We're offering a booking discount. We've actually doubled this for next year. It was $100 originally. It's $200 per person if you make your final payment by check and not by credit card. So everything you've seen is included. There really are no options on this trip. As I mentioned, you could do the Sulphur Mountain Gondola would be something you could do on your own. You've got 11 meals included on this and not 12. There's no more lunch included, I think, on the third day. Burlington Trailways and Carla will handle the bookings on this. It's $300 deposit, an additional $385 for travel protection plan. And when you sign up, Carla could go through the protection plan if you have more questions on that. Again, the $200 payment plan, or $200 pay by final by check, you get $200 off. Your deposit is fully refundable until mid-January, from 6 months until final payment. It's refundable as a future travel credit should you change your mind for any reason. This is the details of the cancellation waiver and post-departure plan. Highly recommend it nowadays if you're leaving the country. And the sign-up form is attached to the flyer that you can get from Carla at Burlington. Maximum on this tour is 44 people. Again, our Canadian Rockies trips typically sell out. So if you're thinking of going, a deposit would be something you want to think about fairly quickly. And the final payments will be due 75 days out. Thank you for listening in, and hopefully you'll join us on this beautiful Canadian Rockies tour.